Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're here today to talk about a very interesting new discovery we've had at White Gold Corp. It's called the Chris Creek target. It's really close to our flagship deposit. We have with us Terry Brace and Cam Norton from our technical team to give a bit of a dive into what we found and why it's so interesting. Just as a reminder for everybody, White Gold Corp is a gold and critical element exploration company. Our projects are based in Canada's Yukon in the Klondike district. We have discovered over the years and built a very significant gold deposit known as the White Gold Project, which is over 2.3 million ounces now in all categories. It is one of the highest grade open pitable gold resources in Canada, over 2 million ounces. We're extremely proud of what we've been able to do there. It remains open for growth directly and with many new targets in close proximity. Is part of a very, very large district scale portfolio, which we've been exploring for the past several years with a lot of success. So I'm going to turn it over now to our team. They can tell you what we've been up to, why we find this target so interesting, and at the end, I guess we can talk a little bit more about White Gold and what else we think we can have on tap for this year.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Just go back to the forward-looking statement there, Cam. Okay, so anyway, this is our forward-looking statement. Encourage people to have a read through this before making any investment decisions. Next, please. Okay, so this is our location map. It shows basically our land package for the entire district. You'll see there the green column. That's where the Chris Creek target is located. It's sort of in the central part of the QV property, which is in that gold color. The rectangle below that is our White Gold project. So you can see we're about 80 kilometers south of Dawson City. And then the White Gold project, we just put out a resource on that last fall, a new resource update. So we've got about 1.2 million ounces of gold in the indicated category and 1.1 inferred. So that's our flagship project. So again, we're in good location in terms of Chris Creek target, quite close to that. Other well-known projects in the area are, of course, Newmont's Coffee deposit to the south, and Casino's Porphyry Copper Gold project to the southeast, and then Klondike Gold, their Lone Star and Standard deposits are just south of Dawson City to the north. So anyway, that's kind of gives a bit of an idea where we are in the district. Next, please. So this is a bit of a close-up. Again, you can see the Chris Creek target with the green star. The rectangle basically shows the four deposits that we have there. They're all near-surface open-pitable deposits. On the White Gold property, we've got the Golden Saddle and Arc deposits. And then just off to the west, we have the Ryan Surprise. We put a new resource out on that one just a little over a year ago. And then the VG deposit basically is on the QV property, and that one is just on the west side of the Yukon River. And so Chris Creek is about 9 kilometers northwest of the VG deposit. So the resource table on the right shows, the breakdown of the various resources. Right now, like I said, we got about 1.2 million ounces in the indicated. That's spread over the 4 deposits. The grade is 2.12 grams per ton gold, and about 1.2 million ounces of gold in the inferred at 1.42. The Golden Saddle really, of the 4, is the largest. It pretty much contains the lion's share of the indicated resources. Again, like I said, this resource estimate was done in October by Dr. Jill Arsenault, and in this one we're using a gold price of $2,000 US per ounce. The previous estimate done in 2023 was using $1,800. Next, please. So this slide basically shows a map of the work that we did in 2023. It's really a target that we've advanced quite quickly. In 2023, we carried out soil sampling on 2 grids, the eastern grid and then another grid to the west. And you can see Chris Creek kind of flows in between the 2 grids. So basically, we were really encouraged by the early soil sampling we did back in 2023. It was just a couple of hundred samples, but this eastern grid really identified a nice, apparently continuous anomaly of about a kilometer long. We had gold values, 10 samples, anywhere from 51 up to 327 ppb gold. So again, this was based on wider space sampling, but again, it appeared to have some good continuity. The highest value was on this western grid. You can see that red square right out on the western margin of that west grid. So that sample had 497 ppb gold, and that was the strongest sample for the entire survey. One interesting thing, and one thing that was encouraging about the Chris Creek target, was that the geochemical signature basically appears similar to the Golden Saddle and VG deposits. It's got anomalous tellurium, and the arsenic values are quite low. So, in terms of the mineralization, it looked to be similar to the VG and Golden Saddle. So, based on those 2023 results, we decided last year basically go back in, do some more work, trying to basically advance it to a drill-ready stage. So early in the season, we did a program of more soil sampling. We basically tightened up our sample spacing over the anomaly, and then we extended the sampling beyond that. So really, like I said, trying to get better resolution on the anomaly itself, plus expand it along strike. And we also did 5 VLFEM lines, shown there by the orange line color. So what we do, that's a ground geophysical survey. We take the data, we do 2D inversions on the data, and it really helps establish what the dip of the structures, and if you have a mineralized zone, what the dip on the zone is. So for drill planning, really a useful survey. And we also took about 14 rock samples. We dug some hand pits, just trying to see if we could retrieve some rock samples, because really there's no web crop. But just from basically doing these hand samples, we were able to confirm the presence of mineralized rock samples. Grades were anywhere from about 0.1 to just over 1 gram per ton. And the rocks themselves appeared to be, potassically altered, intrusive rocks that had stockwork veining in them. So anyway, these early season surveys really set us up nicely for designing our drill program. And of course, that's what the next slide shows.
Just to jump in, sorry, 1 second, if you can go back there, Cam. So just for a little bit of context, this 2.2 kilometer long target, that is very large by any measure. For our particular portfolio, that's probably one of, if not the largest target we've seen for this type of a signature. It's also one of the most intense. It remains open to the east and the west, which is very exciting. And this was just on one of the 2 grids that we sampled in the area. If you remember from the slide where there's an east and a west grid, this is just the east. And what's even more exciting for us is that this is one of a number of similar type targets on an even bigger trend on this property, which extends over 5 kilometers. So it really checks all the boxes for everything you could hope to have in an early stage target like this. It's big, it's close to an existing deposit, there's a lot of similarities. The protocol that led to this discovery is very similar to what we've used in the past. Like, we do really feel like we're starting to crack the code to be able to tap into these mineralized systems. And that this is, why we're so intrigued and excited about the potential for this target in this area of our portfolio.
Good. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so actually this slide shows the 2D inversions of the VLF, and you can see the soil and the golden soil anomaly at surface, and then directly underneath that you can see what we're into. It's basically a resistivity low, and then you can see the lines indicating the interpreted structure. So basically what we came away with was that we have a sort of a gently to moderately dipping northwest trending structure associated with the soil anomaly. So here's the drill plan. It wasn't a big program, but this, again, was the maiden drill program for the target. 6 holes totaling just under 1,100 meters, 1,082 meters. So we tested about a 400-meter strike length. Three of the first holes were drilled on the same cross section, basically primarily to try to confirm, our interpretation, and it really did confirm quite well what we had thought was going on here. So, like I said, we drilled 6 holes, and every hole had gold mineralization. Basically, they were broad zones, up to almost 50 meters. Average grades were about 0.3 up to about 0.7. So, we were encouraged by that. There are some sub intervals with higher grades. Hole 3, for example, had 1.36 grams over 5.9 meters. Again, we were really encouraged by these results. And I think the next slide is probably the interpreted cross section. So again, you can see holes 1 and 2 were drilled from the same setup, same drill pad, and then hole 3 was drilled back to the northwest, drilled kind of underneath that. But again, the drilling established, what we're referring to as a hanging wall vein zone. And then a little bit deeper down, we got a sub-parallel footwall vein zone, all within this potassically altered monzonogranite, which is an intrusive rock. And we've got a series of basically stockwork veining. Cam has some nice photos, I guess, that shows some of the core and what the rocks look like. But again, the interpretation held up quite well. And we were quickly able to establish the dip on the zone just with, the first 3 holes, basically.
And I guess I'll take it from here. So this is exactly as Terry was saying. This is what the hanging wall zone looks like for Chris Creek. So right off the bat, when we saw this core coming in, we were really excited. It has, yes, I'm going to bring my pointer over here. So the core that you're looking at, first of all, has these white ticks going across. Those aren't veins. They're just markers for our cutters. So this core, when we photographed it, was about to go into the cut shack, and this was just a guide to help them cut the core. But the quartz veins, you can see this nice rhythmic, density of quartz veining all the way through the zone. And then you're also seeing, if you look a little closer in, and on the subsequent slides here, we'll start looking at a close-up of the core. But you get this brittle fracturing, these little micro fractures, these dark little stringers here. Those also carry gold. So between these quartz veins, these more milky white quartz veins, and all these darker little fractures, those are essentially your gold-bearing zones and quartz veins and stringers coming on through. So quite a high density, a good alteration coming through the core as well. And for this particular example, we're starting at 21 meters. And as we work on through the zone, you'll see, that vein density continues. The gold grades carry on through. Really nice host rock. It's a potassic altered monzogranite. So it just took that deformation quite nicely. It was, it's structurally altered, brittle fractured, and you get a couple of sets of veins, different vein types that then came through at a later phase. And hopefully it seems it brought the gold mineralization that we see. And here we go. We're just continuing on down into the next block. So again, you can just see this nice rhythmic veining, the continuation all through the zones with these nice milky white quartz veins. And then we're going to look a little closer in the next slide here, and we can actually see what these quartz veins look like in close up. So again, really nice brittle fractured core, which is then injected with quartz veining. In this case here, you can see what this slide is showing is a progression of the density of the veining. So you're getting a little more deformation. Again, vein density continues to increase, really starts to get more silica flooding here. And in this particular case, you have even more deformation. So you might have a fault that was then also injected with the silica and the quartz veining. And what we typically see is with a higher density of quartz veining, we see an increase in gold grade as well. So really exciting to see. And what we're going to look at on the next slide here is a comparison to Golden Saddle and Chris Creek. So Golden Saddle at the top, you can see right away the core does look a little bit different. So you have 2 different host rock lithologies. Golden Saddle is an Au and Gneiss at the top, and that's been more sericite altered, whereas Chris Creek is a monzogranite with more potassic alteration, so this pink coloration that you see. But both zones took this nice brittle fracturing deformation more stockwork style veining, and you get this again, this really nice zone development, which allows for these broader widths that come through. Golden saddle, as we know, over 1 million ounces, but you're also getting, it's hosted by it's more of a stockwork style veining. And we're seeing that also in Chris Creek. So, it's early days for Chris Creek. We're only 6 holes in, but we're seeing a lot of similarities between the vein styles and those broad quartz vein hosted zones. So really promising, what we're seeing again off of these first drill holes.
And that's a good point, Cam. Like in the life cycle of a discovery, it's rare that your first hole kind of hit the bonanza. This has now become very reminiscent to us of the discovery process with the Golden Saddle. We're seeing all the smoke and all the signatures that we want to be seeing with just our first 6 holes, or really it's only 4 different areas. So to have this kind of success so early, that's a testament to these guys to be able to have honed in so quickly on this and now really validate the true potential of this mineralized system here. So it's pretty exciting stuff for sure.
And so now we're just looking at kind of 2 different views of Chris Creek as we currently understand it. So previously when Terry was talking about the soil anomaly, and then here's that same soil geochemical anomaly. And before we started drilling, when you look in the LiDAR structure, we had the sense that it was going to be, and again with the VLF, inverted VLF, that the zone was likely going to be a shallow to moderate north-northwest dip. And we can start to see that as we look over to the right of the screen in this isometric. So those are the zones that we have coming underneath, dipping moderately to the north-northwest. In this particular case, we have about 3 zones, 2 hanging wall and 1 footwall. And just how tight, the quartz veining and the gold zone is corresponding and correlating to the soil geochemistry. So it's quite a testament to how effective soil sampling is in the Yukon. In about a year, we went from the initial soil grid, put some infill samples on, followed that up with the inverted VLF, had a really strong understanding of the zone, and then we were able to drill it quite effectively. And so far, our initial interpretations of the zone are carrying through to what we're seeing. So what we're going to do now is just swap over into Leapfrog, and we'll have a quick look at this zone in 3D here. So just going to swing Leapfrog onto my screen. So again, this is what we're going to look at here is we have Chris Creek on the main area that we were drilling. So we had our 6 holes right into the strongest portion of the golden soil anomaly. Again, from about this portion of the anomaly on the west to the east, that's about 2 kilometers. Then you can zoom out, and this is a tetra target, and it looks to be hosted on the same structure as Chris Creek. So you have from this point over here to the western side of Chris Creek, that's about a 5-kilometer trend. And so there's a lot of potential to start infilling and looking at this anomaly and seeing how we can connect and extend the main zone at Chris Creek. Over to the west again, this is that western grid, and this is that 0.5 gram golden soil anomaly. So another focus as we continue on working is seeing better understanding of Chris Creek and what offset, if there is an offset on that represents the Chris Creek drainage. What displacement you have, and is this a continuation of our main zone here? Really exciting. There's a lot of potential there. So as we start to put this into cross section, you can start to see again just how wide this zone is in depth. So as we start to look in cross section here, that's about again a 50-meter wide hanging wall zone paired with this it's kind of a footwall zone to the main hanging wall style mineralization. And then there's this what we're calling the footwall zone. Slightly different style of mineralization. You get more massive sulfides, so massive pyrite mineralization coming in associated with these with the gold-bearing veins. So really 2 main zones with this kind of intermediary in between. And again, just how tight this corresponds to the golden soil anomaly. So really strong correlation. And with just 6 holes deep, we're early days. And the nice thing too, with this relatively shallow dipping zone, is it doesn't take significantly longer drill holes in order to continue testing this zone at depth. So if this was a steeper dipping zone, the more you step back, the deeper your holes have to be, and therefore the higher drill costs, for your program. For us, as we continue drilling deeper on the zone, what are 100 to 200 meter holes up high only become perhaps 300 meter, 350-meter holes further back along at depth. So it allows us to continue extending and testing the zone at depth without having to have that proportionally higher cost associated with the exploration and the drilling. So it's a really nice orientation of the zone for us as we continue to move forward on this target. What we'll do is we'll just zoom out really quick so you can see a bit of a scale comparison. So what we have is a VG deposit about 9 kilometers here to the south. So size comparison, we have about 250,000 ounces in the VG deposit. Unknown, of course, at this point because we're still at the target stage. But from that soil geochemical anomaly expression, there's the soil anomaly expression for the VG deposit. So it's a pretty, when you actually look at it, it's not a huge soil anomaly, but you have already, and there's still room to expand that deposit as well, but about 250,000 ounces just in that little footprint. So a lot of potential at Chris Creek, and it's one now with early days. It's really, for us now, it's going to be expanding this zone, really testing it at depth along strike and trying to hook into this the potential that Chris Creek represents. So I'm going to go back into PowerPoint here, and I will hand it off to Terry.
Yeah, I think the next slide basically is sort of like a bit of a plan map showing the various soil anomalies in that 5 kilometer long trend.
So there we go.
Here we go. So you can see Chris Creek really is on the western end of that 5 kilometer trend, and we have the Diego target just off to the east of that, and then the Tetra target beyond that. So, like I said, about 5 kilometers, we've got our first 6 holes in on Chris Creek. Lots of exploration potential along that trend. Again, you can look at, compare it again to the VG deposit to the south. You can get a sense that, the footprint for Chris Creek is at least comparable, if not more enhanced than the VG. So anyway, like I said, we're encouraged to, first few holes, got some broad mineralized zones. I think the next slide we show basically just some next steps, trying to basically understand the geology a little bit better in terms of, petrography. We'll get some thin sections cut, do some petrography work, probably do some age dating, initial age date for the intrusion just to see what it looks like. In terms of trying to better understand the alteration, we'll do some hyperspectral scanning on the coarse rejects from the core samples using the TerraSpec. And then, of course, right now we're looking at designing a drill program for this year for diamond drilling that will basically, try to test it down dip and along strike, really just trying to identify, potential zones of higher grade gold. It's certainly got the size. We just need to key into those higher grade zones that Dave was referring to. So anyway, we think we're off to a good start with Chris Creek. Obviously, a lot more work to do. But stay tuned, I guess, and we'll see how the year unfolds for Chris Creek.
So thanks. I think that was a great overview of why we find this Chris Creek target so interesting. It's big, it's near surface, it shares a lot of the similarities to our flagship deposit, which is very close by, and probability-wise, your chances of finding deposits are always best near existing deposits. It's one of only several targets in that area, which most have not seen any drilling at all. So very, very prospective. And this is part of the reason why we're so excited about it. And just to take a step back as a reminder, this type of scenario is exactly what we love about White Gold and why we think it's such a unique opportunity. This is one property of many. There are several other highly prospective and undrilled or targets that have had only limited drilling on them throughout our portfolio. And again, this is an area of the Yukon known as the Klondike. There's been over 20 million ounces of gold found at surface just by placer mining. In the district, we have 2 major gold discoveries recently. Obviously, one is our White Gold project, and the other is the coffee project owned by Newmont. Our neighbor to the south, Casino, is one of Canada's largest copper gold deposits as well. So this is a emerging camp in our belief, and we think we're the leaders here. And with these amount of prospectivity and all these different targets, we're really optimistic that we can be making new discoveries for many, many years to come on the gold side. And also in the last several years, we've been spending more time looking at our portfolio for critical mineral opportunities. We've discovered many such opportunities. Just to touch on a couple, we have two very interesting copper targets. There's copper porphyry signatures on our Peddler and Hayes properties. This is right down by the casino property owned by Western Copper and Gold. And as I mentioned, where you want to be looking for these things is near the existence of previously discovered deposits. So really interesting on that front as well, in addition to the gold. So between the copper, the gold, and everything else, this is just the ultimate opportunity in our mind of the places you want to be working in. A great place, great team that's had the success in the district historically, in a jurisdiction that is so pro-mining and supportive. So we're really, really pleased by what we've seen historically and extremely optimistic by what we think we have ahead of us next year and for many, many years to come. So thanks again for joining us. If you're looking for additional information, there's a ton on our website, and feel free to reach out anytime. Myself or members of our team are always happy to chat further. Thanks again. Hope everyone is doing well, and look forward to being in touch in the future.